class or pentagram.
Yeah.
People are like, pentagram, what is this?
Pentagram, yeah.
Satanist show?
Could it be
What is this,
Satan?
like the Golden Dawn? What is this, Los
You know,
Angeles?
that's one of our top episodes. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
We did one on the history of the Golden Dawn.
Yeah, a lot of people are really interested, especially in the West Coast area.
Yeah.
You know, younger generation kind of figure out what's going on with that. I love that. Ritual magic.
Which he brought that up.
Yeah, there is white magic and black magic.
Right.
In the sense that you are creating geometries or energies through the thoughts of your mind and your actions through ritual, which can be protective or harmful. We don't have to dive into that right now, but that was one part of it. I mean, I know we want to get into the practicality of what we were talking about with Jim itself.
Yeah, and I think we can start, on the second half. I think what's really important is looking at when you ask the question to him specifically about the aspect of the law of one and how it could be used. Well, first you started with oneness.
Yeah, I said, I was
the
like,
definition of what's your definition of oneness?
How do you define oneness?
Yeah. And
in simplicity of what he was saying, everything is the fabric of creation. It's all interlinked. Everything.
He's talking about his house, his cats.
Your house, not in the sense that it's living and breathing,
mm-hmm.
but fundamentally what makes this material thing exists in everything. And that comes from one original thought, which is the creative thought, right? So his point is that everything you do, every interaction with every animal, plant, physical, non-physical thing
mm-hmm.
is a function of creation itself. We're all interlinked. We, as a differentiating factor, are conscious beings who make choices.
Yes. And a cat,
mm-hmm.
an ape,
mm-hmm.
a plant.
All part of creation.
Is second density.
Yes, those are second density because they are not doing conscious choices throughout what they're doing. They have drive instincts, right? They have a growth instinct, or a cat will have a drive instinct. It'll do things that cats do without having to think about it, right? Animal instinct, people would call it. On a rock, what's the rock do? Rock just is the rock, it's a very base thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think whenever we talk about oneness, under the densities kind of explain it all,
mm-hmm.
but then you brought in the beehive.
Yeah, so it always helps to have a metaphor,
mm-hmm.
right? So I try to give a visual. Creation itself, and we've said this many, many times, we are part and parcel of creation. We're the energy, the fabric of it. We're choice, right? So if you think of creation as this massive beehive, it's essentially, it's birthed itself. It is there. It is the structure. The structure now wants to evolve. The beehive wants to grow. The colony wants to survive. It wants to learn for itself. So what's it do? It sends bees out. The bees go collect, pollinate, understand the weather, patterns, flowers, the environment, catalysts around them, and bring that knowledge back to the hive to protect it, to help it advance, to feed, the queen or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
But the collective, all carrying the same energy,
mm-hmm.
go out there to learn many different things, but bring it back for the collective knowledge and survival of the hive itself.
Yeah, and I think that's essential because the bee in and of itself has a role, but it does not have an identity. An ant's the same way.
No, it doesn't. All it knows is that it's going out to do the job, collect the information or the pollen or whatever it might be, and bring it back. It's not thinking, oh, I'm bee number 6.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's not.
I'm Jim the bee.
It's not the ego, that separate self
yes.
from creation is not there.
Right. And so it's not saying turn yourself into a robot.
Right.
It's stating that at a fundamental, very primary level of creation, it's equalizing itself to go out, do work, come back. The bee will sting if it needs to protect itself.
Mm-hmm.
That's a function of harm, right? It's almost a negatively oriented action, but the positive action of everything else is the survival of that thing for the greater good of all, for evolution.
And this gets right to the heart of it because it's like there's no Republican, there's no Democrat. We're all one.
We're all one.
Whether Donald Trump and Joe Biden is one.
Yeah.
So
whether male or female, one.
One. Yes.
Whether Jewish, Christian, Hindu, Buddhist, Brahmin, whatever, one.
One. Yeah. And when you get that, then it creates, which he talked about next, and I think it's a really important, love.
Yeah, because you remove your biases.
Mm-hmm.
You essentially remove distortions of how you view creational truth with how you view oneness. And once that's removed, you can look at things as proper learning catalysts. You can then truly begin to understand the other selves.
Yes.
And through that understanding, you show them love, which is immediately reciprocated back to yourself as another catalyst for your own
100%.
evolution.
Yeah, and that's, to me, that's the beautiful part, is seeing this and when he went into love, he went into detail, which I thought was interesting in understanding the chakras.
Yes.
And then especially the fourth density is the green, right?
Fourth density is green. And the green is the outward projecting. Love is actually something that is pushed out. You give understanding onto the other, right? And then as you can move once you're past the level of understanding, right? Once you're like, okay, I get that. That makes sense to me now. I'm walking around in love. I see people equally. Now I can speak with wisdom. And that's when you start to move up into this area up here. That's like the fifth density area. That's the blue. You sharing that wisdom, being able to speak that message of creation allows for the elevation of that thing to occur.
Yeah, and if you could take he was saying if you could take your 60,000 thoughts a day and 51% of them are love and light and positive,
great.
Then you've moved to fourth density.
Yeah, because now you're on the path of always reframing your choice, thoughts, and actions in love, right? In love and light. Doing something very creational.
Which I know I'm way far away from that, 51%. I've already got about 10%.
Oh my God.
So I got a lot of work to do, which was one of the things that was so beautiful with the podcast, but is all the learning that I experienced through that hour. But what I like about love is, like you're saying, it's everybody always thinks of it as like, love yourself, and it's all internal.
It's not. That's inward focus. That's not how the chakra works.
Yes.
The chakra pushes the energy outward in a translational movement. It's spiraling outwards, clockwise. And that love is an energy which gets poured onto people through that understanding.
And that's a key word, and Raw defined understanding.
And he said it in the English language, understanding is a very limited word. It doesn't actually give the full sense of what love is, but he says the best choice we can use is the word understanding.
Yes. Yeah.
And I thought that was something just in and of itself quite fabulous.
Which leaves us to the next section is light. And we don't need to go into the physics part of it, but
no.
But when you look at love and light, and then because you hear people say that, oh, let's just give light to this, or like spiritual type, or love and light, like you hear it, and that's what I wanted him to talk about was, and he put it as the fabric of creation itself.
Yeah.
And so I view that light is he said the love is the logos, the word that, and then that love is to me kind of that permeating, it's that permeating overarching energy that is pushing, and then light is directed like a laser point.
It's directing that love.
And then through that, it creates.
Precisely
it's infinite
correct.
creation. So that same energy that creates worlds is in you.
Which is the coolest fucking thing ever.
If you really think about it.
Yeah, so creation shoves love out.
Right.
It's just this massive amount of cosmic, electromagnetic, raw, primal, power energy. Okay? Now, it's all there, all pervading. It took some of that energy to coalesce it and create stars.
Yes.
Create planets, atoms, galaxies, things that are very physical. Now you, in your self, which is built up of atoms, essentially light photons, spinning and vibrating at certain rates to define your material self, you have the ability to direct that through your wisdom. So after you understand, here at the green, all of that love can then be potentiated by directing it. Wisdom, words, choice, sharing. That's what it is. Audibly, like us talking into the mic, is directional.
Right.
It's a choice of alignment, and the alignment of light energy in its geometry defines the basis for all material things in their crystalline nature.
Yeah, and you can see a leaf on a tree, and then you can see the sun rays, and then how that leaf is blocking it, which would be negative, if you want to perceive it like that.
Yeah.
And then you see the ray that shines down, and it's very focused.
Yeah.
Like you can focus a magnet onto an ant with light, and guess what's going to happen? You can fry the ant. You can actually do that if it'll sit there long enough.
If it's sit there long, you can burn it. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's just really focused light.
It's concentration.
Yes.
Of that all-pervading energy. But through your wisdom, your directed choice, because you were a conscious living mind, body, spirit complex, you can direct that. And it's either you direct it in service of others in the evolution of all, or you do it to be very negatively oriented and take that power from others and suck it into yourself.
And I think that density of light is the square. You know, is the 1 to 2, the 2 to 4, the 4 to 8.
Which is all right. So the density or the amount of focus that you or a group chooses to do that goes into that law of squares, that law of doubling, which he talks about.
Right.
So consider this. You can bring people in, or say you have a thought and you have that thought 1,000,000 times over about doing things in service to others. You have focused so deeply in the attunement and affirmation of that line of thinking, you've created such a ray, a zeal, a point of focus for channeling that love into that choice, that wise choice that I want to do this for this specific outcome. And the level at which you do that depends on the level of concentration.
I love that. Yes. Yeah. And so to wrap this episode up, because I think it's really important that we, stay with this love and light theme, because that is the main teachings. Raw always left with that.
I leave you in the love and the light of the one infinite creator. And then he would say like Adonai at the end of it, and if that's the final thought that is always there, what does that tell you? If it's the one thing that is repeated more times in the book than the opening line of I am Ra, what does that tell you? It is fundamentally one of the most important messages, regardless of the circumstance of what was initiated in the line of questioning beforehand. It always ends in that fashion.
And this is a 6th density being talking to a 3rd density being.
Correct.
Millions of years of evolution in between.
No, billions.
Or billions of years of evolution in between. And it picks every word, and he talked about this, it picks every word so perfectly. And this is the word these are the words that it chose to give us.
Precision.
Yes.
There was no false logic.
No.
Or bad line of reasoning for the word choice or the thought. Everything was chosen ahead of it. It was chosen ahead of time. It was completely conscious of the choice it was making with the greatest and highest level of scientific and mathematical and logical precision you could ever ask for.
And that's the part I love and that was so beautiful is this whole aspect of understanding, and that's the key word, understanding, oneness, love, light. All of these things are so hard to practice because of our ego, but so easy to understand.
And this is something we talked about.
We could talk to a child about this, and we could explain it to them, and they could understand that.
The concept, everybody gets it.
Yes.
But actually living the choice,
yes,
right? Living the law of one, living the distortion that you are, that's the hardest damn thing in the world to do. And that's why we're on an evolutionary path. That's why we're afforded the opportunity to take the learning catalyst and do something with it. You can choose, fuck hell, I don't want to do it.
Yeah, and he said and we can close on this. He said the Confederacy had 3 things. And meditate. So
the greatest tool we could use.
The greatest tool, and they give examples of meditation and stuff like that. And there's a lot of different formats of meditation, but I think it's just the whole idea of slowing your monkey mind down and taking the time to focus on love and light, taking the time to focus on oneness. And then allowing your breath to settle, your body, your meat suit to kind of relax, and to get into that reformatting of that hard drive.
Remember we talked about that process, and you and I were both sitting there silently. I'm like, I got to listen to that 10 times over.
Yes.
It's rare that I feel like that, where I'm like, wait a minute.
That's deep, and I need to understand it more.
Like I was yearning to understand it more.
Yes.
And I was like, my goodness.
That's the deepest thing he said on the whole podcast. And I need to, we'll write it down word per word, and maybe we can hit him up on it.
Yeah.
On the next one.
But I would share
go ahead.
To our listeners that we would love, Jim agreed to come on for another show in a couple months. After you all listen to this, if you want to submit anything in for a Q&A, we'd be more than happy to ask him the questions that you do have. Just in your own line of reasoning or your own search or in your own path. We'd be more than happy to talk to them.
Yeah, and I know it's Jason at higherdensityliving.com.
It's also Alex at higherdensityliving.com.
So you can email either one of us.
Yeah,
and or both of us at the same time.
We'll pay attention. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll make sure we get your questions in for sure.
Yeah, and again, we thank you all, and continue in the love and the light of the one infinite creator.